Okay, so this is the next video update vlog. I'm not going to be doing the video updates every Wednesday. I'm just going to do it for a couple of times. Now I don't actually have anything physically available to show this week, unlike last week where I had the first print sample of Dinosaur. I do have a status update about Dinosaur, but first I need to say the copy's not here anymore. I donated that to my cousin's daughter. It's a little bit advanced for her at the moment, but I'm sure she'll really enjoy the pictures. So I don't have the sample with me anymore, but there was a problem with the printing. Now I use ZuW, but I also try and make sure my books will be able to be sold on the likes of Amazon. And basically there were 2 pages in the back. They were basically like a Colour of the Dinosaur page, and then there was another page which should have had like a map of the zoo, you know, dinosaur zoo, and basically says point out where Donnie and Bluth live. Where Donnie and Bluth live, sorry. And those 2 pages wound up being cut because it was something to do with Amazon. They didn't like something about them. I'm not entirely sure why, but basically they wound up getting cut, and it really disrupted how the book looked. So I had to go back and edit these pages via the book builder. So I had to put them back into the actual book. Hopefully they will not be cut out. They should not be cut out. But if you do order a copy of Dinosaur, there should be 2 pages in the back. One which says Colour the Dinosaur with a blank picture of Donnie for children to colour in, and then another page which has a map with lots of little dinosaurs and a few little question marks for dinosaurs that are a bit secret at the moment. So if those 2 pages are missing, please drop me an email, because they should actually be there, and it's the fault of Amazon, and I'm looking for more and more evidence that I can to basically say to Amazon, look, you shouldn't be doing this. This is not your job. I'm the publisher, I'm the editor, I'm the creator. I have charge of this. So, now that that's aside, I'm going to talk about the Subject to 18 comic briefly, because like I said, there's nothing physical to show this week. So, if I just turn this one on. So, basically, I'm making headway with the comic. I have scanned every single page in, and now I'm going through the very tedious stage of editing it. So, as you can see, this is a raw scan. I scan everything about 2000 dpi. So when I zoom in, it looks a little blurry, but that's because these are so massive. They're about 6,000 pixels by 6,000 pixels. So it picks up everything, including like little dirt on the scanner lens, and a few pencil marks which have been erased, but they've left like grooves in the paper. So whilst the paper texture is gone now, the all the other little bits of details are still there. So I basically take this raw scan, and as people who have watched my previous videos will know, I go and delete every single piece of white individually with the magic wand tool, and this can take anywhere from 10 minutes if it's just one picture, or even as long as 30 to 40 minutes. These panels, I can't remember how long it took me. It took me too long, to be honest, because I also have to delete these bubbles, these speech bubbles. So basically what I decided to do with regards to the speech bubbles is, if I just close the original scan, This is the version I was working with. So all the white's gone. If I make a new layer, like so. Well, there's a layer in here that's grey, so we'll use that. We'll get rid of these, and this is basically how the final line work looks. So if I go to actual pixels, it's no longer blurry; it's very sharp. So it might look a little bit sketchy, but this is the general theme I wanted with this comic, is to be kind of grungy. So you know, so it's like the actual themes of the story, they're just punks, they're just a bunch of, you know, chavs really. And so I wanted the comic to keep in keeping with that, so I thought I'll make them in my drawing style, but I'm also going to add a few random scratchy bits in the background, make things look a little bit grungy in places. So that's what I did there, and then obviously I colour in pieces. Now when it came to the dialogue, and obviously cigarette smoke for Toby in the car, when it came to the speech bubbles, you will have noticed in the previous image there were lots of sketched speech bubbles everywhere, and it looked a bit chaotic. Now they are the rough draft of the text, so it's not the final bit of writing. What happens is I write the text onto one layer, and then I draw the bubble around that text, you know, so the text doesn't get too close to the bubbles. I mean, it does in a few places, because it's like the shouting bubbles, I struggle to write in those. So you're probably wondering why there's lots of different colours here. Well, that's because if I go to this, which is my template, I am starting now to fill out all the biographies for the characters, except for characters who haven't appeared yet. They will stay silhouetted with question marks about them until they actually appear in the story. Bob will indefinitely remain like this until, I think, issue 12. So he won't show up at all, but he's mentioned quite a bit, so I decided to put his text in anyway. So anyway, about the speech bubbles, I thought there's a lot of characters in these scenes, and some of these characters will interrupt the other characters on a regular basis. Such as Tim here, he likes to interrupt people a lot. He will do it given any chance, really. And he will argue with not just one character, like James or Kyle. He'll interrupt and argue with all three of these other main characters at the same time. So it can look a bit chaotic. So I thought, right, instead of having the white speech bubbles, generic white speech bubbles, everybody except Tim, you know, instead of giving Tim the luxury of a bold speech bubble, I thought I'm gonna make every single main character, so it's these four, and Frege here. She's not appeared in text yet, so you won't see a sample of her speech yet. So the primary characters down this row, who are the 5 ones, get their speech bubbles coloured, because they speak the most, and when arguing and interruptions happen, it is mainly with these 5 characters. So in this scene we have obviously Kyle, his speech bubble is orange. James doesn't speak in this particular scene, but his speech bubble is green. And Tim here, his speech bubble is blue. And Toby's is red. Frege's will be pink when it eventually comes to her speaking, but she's not in these scenes. So anyway, so that's the process of doing the speech bubbles. Now I flattened the image. Not going to save that because it was just messing around there. And then I paste it into my template. So I have a template here for a right page, so there's more black on the right than there is on the left. So this will be the page that's on the right side. On the left side, there's more black obviously on the left than there is on the right, and so on. So what I do, if you noticed in the old picture, it had these scrappy looking borders. So what I did was I made some black border vectors, and I just moved them into place, like so. And it just makes it look a lot tidier. Now, some people might be wondering why I've decided to make the borders so narrow compared to, let's say, a DC comic which might have borders a bit thick like this. Basically, I just decided I don't want to look 100% Western. I love the manga style of comics, so some panels might have a thick gap like this, but primarily they stay thin so that there's as much image as possible in the box, and the space is not being wasted by just black emptiness. I mean, there's black emptiness in the background of this scene just to show Tim's shock at hearing Toby has drunk half a bottle of whiskey within half an hour and he's driving. So they basically some scenes will have completely black backgrounds just to emphasize emotion or a certain effect. So the borders, though, I don't agree with making them super thick because it's not necessary. Really just wastes space. So that is how the comic is working so far. They're going to be in flat colours, so the issues will be like what is shown on screen, with a few effects on, obviously, that make it look like there's shading, but there isn't yet. The final versions will be fully shaded and in full colour in the volumes. Why I am doing this is because I want to have people be able to access the comic as it develops, so all the issues will be released as soon as all the pages are coloured like this. Because shading takes me so long to do, I thought it'd be better to release the issues so people have a story to get into, and then I can fully colour and shade everything and provide volumes for those who really do like the story and they want to invest basically in what would be the more expensive version of the comic, because these versions they are the most affordable version in the individual issues. If I just show you, I don't have a sample of it yet if you're thinking. This is the size roughly of how the comics are going to be. This is A5. This is a fan comic I picked up from Japan. But they're A5 size, and this is exactly the same size as what ZuW is offering me for my printing. The only difference is this is a bound spine, whereas the individual issues will be saddle stitch, which is where they have the staples in the sides, like a generic comic. But that's the size that the issues are going to be in. The final volumes will be in a larger book, but I have not yet been given any options for that, because I haven't been able to calculate how many pages there are going to be, because ZuW want me to provide them with all this information so that they can give me quotes for basically printing costs and everything. So the comics are going to be A5 in the individual issues, and I've already got them calculated for the first issue at 28 pages. That's how many there's going to be. At 28 pages, sold on the ZuW website, and they cannot be distributed, I don't think, can they? No, they can't be distributed to the likes of Amazon, so you will only be able to buy these comics on ZuW, the individual issues, that is. The volumes will be up for sale on Amazon, but please bear with me a moment because they are going to be expensive. The individual issues, they will be 28 pages, and they cost me £4.80 to print. So that's before I even make any money out of it. So I was hoping to sell these books for £5, but that's not going to be the case now. They're going to have to be about £6 in order for me to make even £1 from a comic sale. However, when I go to Comic-Con and I order my own stock from there, it's the same printing service. It's still ZuW, but they have a separate printer service to their printing and distributing service. So that price I gave was the printing and distribution service. The price here is for just printing my own stock that I sell at Comic-Con. And they've given me a quote of $5 per book, which is brilliant because that makes it roughly £3.99 per book. So I can actually sell them now for £4.50 or £4 or even £5. It doesn't matter. They will end up being the cheapest version to buy. So that's for the individual issues. For the actual volumes, it gets a little bit messier because I want it to be the same size as volume 1 of Subject 218. But the problem there lies, unless somebody picks it up and actually flicks through, you probably will not be able to distinguish which is the comic and which is the volume for the novel, because they're getting a new cover. So these covers are not going to be the same by the time I go to Comic-Con. And the title card that I'm doing for Subject 218's comic is going to be used on the volumes for the novels as well, because it's to keep continuity going. So while I want to make the volumes for the comic the same size as this, it's probably not likely, because I don't want people to get confused by which is the comic and which is the novel without having to pick the copy up. I want them to be able to look and say, that's the novel, that's the comic, without having to worry about anything else. I like this size for the novel. It's if I make it any smaller, it produces more pages, and if I make it any larger, it looks ridiculous. So this is the size I want to keep the volumes at for the novel. But in terms of the comic, I want to make them about the same size. So the only quote that I got was, here we go, perfect bound and full colour. This is where it's going to start getting very, very scary with the prices, because this is ZuW for you. So that one is US trade. There's a larger version called US letter, which is what I'm thinking of using for the comics. And 28 pages per... I'm terrible. I'm terrible with my maths. So 28 times 5, because there's going to be 5 individual issues, and I'm going to assume they're going to be about the same size each. That's 140 pages. Now, I just have to add a 1 to this. If I just... There we go, I'm on the right page now. 140 pages is £24, 10 pence, and that's before I can even make any profit off of that. That's ZuW is printing costs. That's a lot of money. So I did think about possibly cutting down the amount of issues that go into a volume, just so that it does become more affordable, because I mean, I do have a lot of comics in here. I have a compilation volume which is from Transformers, and they don't number the pages really. Comics don't generally number them. I mean, this one, I was lucky, has numbers in them. This one is quite large. It actually has nearly two. It has nearly 150 pages, I think. 151 pages. So there's 151 pages in this, but we'll just round it to 150. That's 10 more than what I just put on there, and this is only priced at $20, which is supposed to be about £17. So it's extremely expensive, but it's not my choice to make it that way. And really, if I do reduce the amount of issues in a volume to, let me just start again, 28, so let's just say there are 3 issues, so 28 times 3, 84 pages will cost £15, 14 pence. So I could make the volumes 3 issues long, which would unfortunately mean that there are more of them, but that is entirely up to what you guys actually think, because I just want to make the comic. I love making the comic. I just want to make sure it's fairly priced, really. Because this is a story that I personally adore. I mean, it might be full of foul language, it might have some tones where there's obviously alcohol abuse, physical abuse, but a lot of these things were actually straight from my dream bank, a bit like the Zinimaru stuff. Unfortunately, this is where it's going to start connecting with the My Gakido biography, or My Gakido biography, because the dreams that are relating to Subject 218 came at a point in my life where I was at my my darkest points. So I was having a lot of really dark thoughts about life and certain things involving life, and Tim was my my venting point. So in my dreams, and also whenever I wrote scrap journals or wrote poetry, it was all channeling this inner voice, and that inner voice wound up manifesting itself as Tim. So everything that is bad about him is pretty much everything that was bad inside here. I might never have gone and drank, I might never have gone and smoked or anything, but the thoughts of doing it was all there, and thankfully I chose to outlet that through him rather than going and actually doing it. So this type of topic that I've just discussed is also going to be appearing in the not Specimen G13, the the My Gakido biography, which I have been working on as well on the side, because it's another controversial thing that I really wanted to get out there, because there's so much about the transgender community that just does not cover female to males like myself. So I really do think it's time to share some of these experiences on how I managed my depression when I was trying to transition, but nobody thought I was actually transgender. They thought it was all a phase. A phase that lasted 18 years? Anyway, so I have been working on My Gakido, but that's just a little side thing I've been doing alongside the comic. Now that Dinosaur Volume 1 is finished, I'm not doing Volume 2 just yet. That will be in the near future, but not too soon, because I want to get the volume of Subject 218 finished, which means I have to do at least 3 issues, and I've nearly finished issue 1. So when I finish Volume 1 of Subject 218, and when I have finished My Gakido, I will then work on Dinosaur Volume 2 and maybe even Volume 3. and then I will obviously move back on to doing the comic and working on Specimen G13 even more, because that book is taking so long to do. And it's not the fault of the proofreader, because the proofreader has 2 folklore books to read. They don't have time. The reason the Specimen G13 is taking so long is primarily down to my own work schedule, really, because I'm favouring at the moment getting, at the time I was favouring Dinosaur and Subject to 18, and now I'm favouring Subject to 18 and My Gakido. So again, Specimen G13 has been put at the back of the queue for absolutely no good reason. So I will be going back to work on it. It's just I think when the 2 folklore books have actually been proofread and are available, I'll be even more motivated to actually finish it. So it is still getting some love and attention, but it's not getting as much love and attention as I really want to give it. So that's all basically I have to say on the blog this week. Next week is going to just be a generic little typing blog. I hope by then to have my first issue of Subject to 18 fully coloured. Whether or not it's going to be ready for print, I don't know. Because I've identified like 1 page is missing. I don't know how that's happened. Because I've got all the stuff here. All of it should be in this one book. This one sketchbook has everything. It has all the drawings, all the scans. It is all in here. I mean, where's the page that I just showed? Here. This is how big it is. It is about A5. So, in theory, these comics when they come out should look just as good as my original sketches. So, whether or not that's the case, we'll find out. But there are, for some reason, a couple of pages missing in the comic that aren't in this book, and I think they're in one of the other books. So, this is one of the problems when you buy sketchbooks. I mean, I filled this up in no time, and it's quite thick. It looks really thick. You're probably thinking, oh, the comic's going to be really thick. But you've got to remember, these are just drawn on 1 page each. They're not drawn on both sides. So it's going to be half the thickness. So, anyway, I've rambled on long enough about the comics. It's time to just briefly ramble, and I mean briefly ramble, about the Redbubble store. I did have mugs and t-shirts, and I said I'd put pictures up, but I can't find the shirts because they're not mine. They're actually they belong to a family member who bought them. I can't find the shirts, and I really want to find the shirts and the mugs and take pictures of them all together, really. So as soon as I do find those shirts, I will get those pictures taken and uploaded. And there was supposed to be one more thing that I was going to upload to the Redbubble store this month, but it is still not finished because I prioritised Dinosaur this month to get that finished. Now that Dinosaur is finished, though, I am going to go on the Redbubble store and start putting some more artwork up. Now, there's also a change that some people might be a bit surprised to hear, and that's I am back on DeviantArt. Now, I posted a blog. Hold on a moment. Here we go. And it's not loading. Why isn't it not loading? Okay, so it doesn't like posting in the internet for some reason on here. But basically, I was trying to show you the DeviantArt page, but it's not working. So, I do apologise for that. But basically, if you go on to, like it says at the bottom here, www.deviantart.com/ZuW-Works, I start posting all my fan art there, and I'm posting some of my original work as well. I've got some commissions and requests there as well, so on the request streams, they go there. So if you're someone who's going to be on the stream later tonight, because I'm going to try and do an hour, maybe two, of character requests, I am going to be posting those all on DeviantArt. They will not go on any other websites, just primarily because the other websites I used have certain fandoms that would not appreciate the artwork. So in regards to the DeviantArt story, like I said, I posted up a journal entry on DeviantArt explaining why I left and why I decided to come back, and it's all connected to a few problems I had within Second Life. Now, I'm not going to go into full detail on that. Please, if you are interested in that type of thing, read on it on the DeviantArt page. But basically, I learned that DeviantArt really wasn't as bad as we thought it was. So I decided to go back, but I couldn't reopen my old account. I couldn't even reuse the name ZuW, because once you use a name on DeviantArt, even if you deactivate the account, you don't get that name back, and that account's been closed for 5 years now. So about 5 years, yeah, nearly 5 years. So the only other name I could choose was ZuW-Works. So I've rambled on quite a lot today. It was only supposed to be short, but this seems to be a habit of mine to ramble. Next week, all typing, maybe. If something really excellent happens, I'll do a video blog. But for now, I'm going to just keep putting up some Spore Let's Plays on YouTube, doing an occasional art stream on a Wednesday, so you'll be able to catch me doing all sorts of other things, not just on the website posting an update. So remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell icon so that you get notified instantly whenever I put something up, because I've been putting up some little how-to videos on how to do some quick little effects in Photoshop. So remember to like those videos if you enjoy them, and or even if you've just learned something new that you didn't know. So I'm going to end the video here because I could waffle all day. So again, thank you, like, subscribe, and I will see you again next Wednesday.